principles have been spun around over the last 100, 200 years, and there are so many sub-rules and subsidiary rules and all that will all confuse you. I'm going to narrate you a small story which deals with how far these natural justice principles must be observed in the cases followed by the internal committee. Time up? No? In the internal committee. There was this medical college in my student days, you see. The ladies' hostel was separated from the boys' hostel, naturally. Otherwise, you know what will happen. Even so, the boys were very curious to find out what the girls are doing one moonlit night. As the moon was rising, the badness rose, and in that romantic moment, some of the boys climbed up the walls of the girls' hostel, you see. Having climbed up, as darkness was setting in, they started waving out, the girls won't see. So they jumped into the compound and started attracting, whistling, howling, and things like that. As the girls looked, these people started whistling and dancing. And as they danced, some of them took their shirts off and danced very vigorously, you must say. And then as this vigorous thing progressed, somebody thought he'll go and shake hands with a girl. So he went near the window. In those days, the grills never used to be there, you see. I'm going back to 60s. So he pulled one of the girl's hands. And then somebody said, there are lots of girls studying up in the terrace on the 5th floor. So these boys climbed up the pipeline, jumped into the terrace, and threatened the girls, molested them, created all kinds of scene. And the girls howled, and you know how you people shriek. Very violently, and that, you see, as they shriek, the boys ran away. Next day there was a newspaper item and all that. A complaint took place. 3 boys were identified by 38 girls. I'm telling you some and subsets. Details will be told by the lawyer. And then 3 boys were dismissed for having been identified. Now the boys said, we want to cross-examine these girls because principles of natural justice says nobody shall be heard unheard. No parties must be heard. So you shall not punish me without giving a hearing. And that hearing includes cross-examination of the girls. Bring the girls and we will cross-examine them. The Supreme Court said, there is no question of bringing the girls. Their modesty will be offended. And they have come here and the principal and the warden are supposed to be the guardians. And they gave a complete go-by to the principles of natural justice. I'm reading 3 or 4 sentences from that judgment. It is there in your reading material. When you get time, if you are going to sit in the internal committees, this judgment will be of great help to you, right? The first point is that the college authorities were loco parentis to all the students, male and female, who were living in the hostel, and the responsibility towards young girl students was greater because their guardians had entrusted them to their care by putting them in the hostels attached to the college. Therefore, now, about the night party, pulling hand and dancing and climbing up the pipeline, the terrace, the authorities had to devise, because the girls' names will come out, their modesty will be offended. Therefore, it says the authorities had to devise a just and reasonable plan of inquiry, which on the one hand would not expose the individual girls to harassment by the male students, and on the other hand, a reasonable opportunity to the accused to state their case should be given. Number 2. The third point, the only question was identity of the perpetrators. In other words, the incident has certainly taken place. There is no question about the incident. We want to know about the identity of the people who have committed. And the last point is, we know of statutes in India like the Gundas Act, which permit evidence being collected behind the back of the Gunda, and the Gunda being merely asked to represent against the main charges arising out of the evidence concerned. So therefore, they said, even if they have collected the evidence behind the back of these students, those evidences are all valid. And the court dismissed the case of the students. Now, if somebody tells you about principles of natural justice, from this judgment, you know, there is a grave limitation on principles of natural justice in cases like sexual harassment, because the primary concern of this act is of course about you ladies, no doubt about that. But there is a large section of society waiting outside who have no idea about this protection, no idea as to how to proceed these cases, and they are as ignorant as you industrialists about the procedural aspects involved in the case. Now look at the case of that Calicut Bar Association. It comes to me and it reminds me of the famous case in America of Mrs. Jones. Now what happened in Calicut? A young girl goes and joins the bar. So now she is allowed to practice, not the other bar, gentlemen. That bar is different from the Advocates Association's bar. So she joins the Advocates Association's bar, and what happens is that she is being addressed as sweetie, or some such expression which she resents. And she says, this is not the way to call me, I am a professional. And what the Bar Association says, instead of ordering an inquiry into it through an internal committee, they suspend her. And the case is being fought. So it is not that everybody who is in the position in which you are. Even the great guardians of law perhaps today do not know what they, what the implications of these judgments are. Okay, so much so about bias and the principles of natural justice. Now what happens if natural justice is not applicable in its full force? What exactly is applicable? The law says that the law says that the third basic principle is that you should act in good faith. To my mind, in all your ICC proceedings, what is really applicable is this good faith, proceeding in good faith. What exactly it means? That you must act honestly, you must act with care and attention. Now, if you have to act honestly, display that you have acted honestly, what needs to be done? What needs to be done? That there are two aspects that you need to attend at this stage. One is to establish that ex facie, on the record itself, you are a fair person. So one of the first things that you do is, as soon as the complainant has come in, the respondent has come in, you 4 people are sitting there. When the 6 people are sitting, please start noting down. And it says that, and that clerical procedure is, you note down as proceedings dated so and so of the internal committee into the alleged sexual misconduct. Complaint number dated so and so. I am sure that there will be a lot of complaints in all organizations in the times to come. Then the internal committee members, the names present, the presiding officer and the members, their names that you can mention. Agreed woman, name, and the complainant, she will be the complainant. And then you have the respondent, persons against whom the complaint is made. This is the first administrative thing that you need to do. You can keep this as the format, because this is a safe format, tested in course of time. You know, it's time tested, and therefore you have this format. The second thing is the judicial process of proving that you have actually acted fairly and honestly is, start recording the proceeding in the following manner. We have received a complaint dated so and so against you, making certain allegations which have been forwarded to you under our letter dated so and so. Have you received our letter along with the complaint? Now, if the man says, no, I have not received the complaint, ensure that a copy of the complaint is given to him, and you ask him to come after about 48 hours or 72 hours, so that he has time enough to read the complaint, understand the complaint, and prepare whatever he wants to do about the complaint. Are you there with me, please? That is the fair and proper procedure. Now, when he comes again, you again ask him, have you read and understood the complaint? If he says no, you read it out to him and explain the complaint to him. And if he again says no, you say, all right, you don't have to understand, I am proceeding. No, I have read it out to you, I explained to you, I am now proceeding and you can proceed. Have you, if the allegations are proved, if the allegations are proved, you say that it will be a sexual harassment conduct in the place of work, right? Having said that, you ask him whether you plead guilty or you don't plead guilty. He says, no, I don't plead guilty. If he says, I plead guilty, record his statement, whatever he wants to say. Okay, having recorded his statement, having pleaded guilty, take his signature, take the woman's signature, affix your signature, and then that proceeding concludes there, you can give your findings. If he says, I am not guilty, call the complainant, tell the complainant rather, because she is going to be present there, tell her that this man says that he pleads not guilty, and therefore now you state your case, and if you have any witnesses, you can produce your witnesses. So she states her case. How she states? She reads out the complaint, or verbally tells you what is in the letter of complaint, gives you the letter, a copy of the letter, and that letter can be taken on your records marked complainant's exhibit number 1. Are you there with me, please? Have you understood that? Complainant's exhibit number 1. Then she is told, okay, you have given your version. You ask that fellow whether he wants to say anything. In most of these cases, I feel, you will have only the complainant and the accused, or the respondent. Maybe there may be a case of 1 or 2 witnesses in some cases. If the witnesses are there, after the complainant is examined, is cross-examined by the respondent on the statement made by the complainant, you ask her to call her witness. So she calls her witness, one examines, then the respondent cross-examines. Any documents are there, they are all produced at the time of examination or cross-examination, and then like that, this continues. Now, when one witness is being examined, make sure that other witnesses are not present in the hall. Okay, otherwise, there is a question of manipulation all the time. So your duty is to see that only one witness is examined at one point in time. Like this, continue with the process of examination and cross-examination till all the evidence is taken and all the witnesses are concluded. Now, I'm going to show you 3-4 slides on what is reasonable opportunity.